You may choose a creature card in your hand whose mana cost could be paid by some amount of, or all of, the mana you spent on X. If you do, you may cast that card face down as a 2/2 creature spell without paying its mana cost. If the creature that spell becomes, as it resolves, has not been turned face up and would assign or deal damage, be dealt damage, or become tapped, instead it's turned face up and assigns or deals damage, is dealt damage, or becomes tapped. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. You get that, guys?
I'm not.
You understand what's going on right now?
You can play anything like it's a morph creature, right?
You can play things as morphs.
What's the
and like flip them up for their mana cost, basically. Like when, but all right, it's you can pay an amount that's greater.
Right, so he pays like
or equal to,
and he can put a
the casting
dreadnought
cost or something. So you can pay like you can pay 1, put a dreadnought on the table as a 2/2, and then when the dreadnought attacks, becomes tapped, is assigned damage, is dealt damage, anything, it gets flipped up and becomes a 12.
Okay, it automatically gets flipped up?
Yes.
Okay. It's really, really weird.
But it's already in place, so nothing on the play.
Yes.
I see. So that's what the trick is there. Mm-hmm. It's kind of trying to figure out why do you want to do that? Okay. So these guys are looking at their openers, and I just saw Big Head Joe take the match slip up to the judge.
All right. So I believe AJ Mulligan is 6 here. He's going to lead off with the Thoughtseize.
And Josh decides, looks like he's thinking mental misstep here. Or brainstorm to hide something.
Both which would be very reasonable plays.
Yep. And brainstorm it is.
I like these sleeves of both players' parts.
Yeah,
AJ Kerrigan loves the fatties.
Josh loves bacon.
It's true.
What exactly does it say?
Bacon?
Bacon. I had some bacon this morning on a sandwich from Starbucks.
Oh wow, how lucky.
And the mental misstep. So he brainstorms, and he did just do both, you know?
Yeah.
So why not? So Josh untaps his Underground Sea, draws into a Wasteland, has, I believe I still have Goyf in his hand, which is, would already be a 2/3. Depending on what he plays here, if he's got Fetch Land into Goyf, it would be a 3/4. I don't know that he has that, but I see a Standstill in hand. And there's a Mishra's Factory, that's the Dual Decks version.
Yeah, that
he
comes
does not
in
have
the Tezzeret dual deck.
Yeah, the Elspeth version.
Decides to go ahead and stick a Standstill. And with that factory in play, he's going to have a pretty big advantage for that Standstill.
Yeah.
Alright guys, we're ready to draft number 1 Fall Bay.
I wonder if AJ's played against many Standstills.
Yeah. Or even watched AJ TV. The other AJ. Because AJ Soccer put out an hour-long video with a good chunk of it devoted to playing around Standstill, how to play around Standstill. So,
yeah.
A lot of useful information there. I know AJ is working on now. AJ Soccer is working on episode 2, and it's going to be about Brainstorm. I know he wrote that article last year about pondering Brainstorm. I think was the title of the article, and about how to correctly play Brainstorm. And I think he's going to basically make a video of that and maybe updating some of his thoughts on it. So look forward to that on Star City Games.
Yeah, Brainstorm is one of the most complex cards in the format. It's also one of the best cards in the format.
Yeah.
And how well one plays and maneuvers with their brainstorms is, one of the major factors in this format.
So AJ cracks a Standstill with Hymn to Torok, so and him gets hit with a Daze.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
Is that another mental misstep?
I think so, yes.
That's going to be pretty good, especially if AJ's going for some sort of like dreadnought.
So Josh adds a Tropical Island and a Tarmogoyf. So now we've got Instant Sorcery, Enchantment, Land. So it's a 4/5. And
Enchantment. Yeah.
yeah.
4/5.
Oh, is he showing him his graveyard? I thought he showed him his hand. I'm like, what just happened? The Ataxian Probe? What?
So let's see, does AJ have namesake cards at all? Ooh, Ritual.
Funny because if he has a Dreadnought, it's a 4/5. Isn't that what we said?
Yeah, that's what we said.
Just confirming. Okay, yeah. I mean, it could be baiting a misstep here. Definitely making
AJ likes
Josh
to
think
bait
about it.
cards, so
What does he have that costs 4 mana in his deck? Not much.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Hunted Heart costs 2, is that right? There's an Illusionary Mask. And he has 1 floating. And does he want to try a Dreadnought here? Yeah, he's like, so this is how it works.
go ahead and read it.
Yeah. You
Good
figure
luck
it out.
figuring it out.
You figure out how I'm going to view this.
I don't have to tell you.
Hey. How's that work? Guess. Josh is kind of, I think, perplexed as to whether or not he should be countering this. I think that's what he's doing right now, is just thinking about it. Which makes me think he must know how it works. He hasn't picked it up to try to read it. I think that's just instinct, you know? Even if, even with a card as, well, wordy as Illusionary Mask. So I would guess that Josh is fairly familiar with it. Who has 4? Oh, he asked for Oracle. Okay, so
So he wants the Oracle text.
Josh has 4 Oracle
Oh, man.
in his deck?
You think the Oracle text is going to help, buddy? Here, let me read you the Oracle text. X, : You may choose a creature card in your hand whose mana cost could be paid by some amount of or all of the mana you spent on X. If you do, you may cast that card face down as a 2/2 creature spell without paying its mana cost. If the creature that spell becomes, as it resolves, has not been turned face up and would assign or deal damage, be dealt damage, or become tapped, instead it's turned face up and assigns or deals damage, is dealt damage, or becomes tapped. Activate this ability only time you've cast a sorcery. Does that help, Josh?
AJ pays 2 and puts an I Love Fatties into play. After resolving Illusionary Mask. I love watching AJ play. Yeah. That would be the... You wouldn't want to lose a bet and have to get that tattooed on your chest, as Jeremy points out here. Oracle text, even just printed text. Lose
Just
2
before,
bets.
it's an ice cauldron.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
I don't even remember what Ice Cauldron does. I mean, again, because it's too long. I was like, I'm not reading that.
It's like War and
What if
Peace.
I ever knew.
Like,
Yeah, not the Sword of War and Peace.
It's like
The
my
card
summer
of War
reading.
and Peace,
It's
yeah.
going to be Ice Cauldron.
But you write a book report on Ice Cauldron and Illusionary Mask. So, yeah, how does that work with, what do I do? I'm playing against a child who just put a card into play that I don't understand. How does that work as far as countering spells? It's just you put it into play, right?
Yeah, no, it's not a morph. It's and if
put into
he,
play, right?
Like if he tries to go for the throat, the go for the throat just fizzles.
Yeah, wow. So, okay, real quick, let me understand this. It depends on what it is, but yeah, exactly. We don't know what it is. It could be a target for go for the throat. Could be a Hunted Horror. That would hit Go for the Throat. That would, I mean, to Go for the Throat would hit that.
Yeah.
But as far as Illusionary Mask, that puts it into play though, right? It doesn't cast the spell.
No. You cast it, but you can like.
So it can be countered, is what I'm saying. Like, can you counter? Could he have countered that 2/2? Do you guys don't know?
Yes.
We're trying to figure.
He can counter it.
Okay. Okay, it's still being cast. Okay, just checking. So a Brainstorm from Josh, and looks like he adds a Underground Sea, and there's a Go for the Throat. So let's see what it was. AJ thinks about it. Is it as soon as it's targeted, it's supposed to flip? Is that right? Yeah. Now I want to read the printed text. So he's using Go for the Throat on the 2/2, and it was Phyrexian.
No. Get the judge. That doesn't work.
Yeah. Does that? It flips, and it's a doesn't. Does that work? Go for the Throat on the 2/2. Shouldn't it flip?
No, it
it's
doesn't.
An artifact?
It's an artifact. Yeah, but it's still an artifact. It maintains subtype.
When it's face down, it has no creature types or abilities or anything.
Okay. Maybe it doesn't have creature types as a face down 2/2 or abilities, or it's not an artifact when it's a 2/2. I thought it flipped up when it got targeted. I think AJ probably knows, so he.
Okay. Yes.
With it. So
October 1st, 2009. So the rulings section on Gatherer for this card has over 25 entries.
So go ahead, read this. What did that say?
It said October 1st, 2009. While the creature is face down, it is a 2/2 creature with no name, mana cost, color, creature type, abilities, or expansion symbol.
Okay.
Since it has no mana cost, its converted mana cost is 0.
Okay. AJ adds a Goyf to his side of the board to match Josh's. Man, that would have been exciting for a second. We would have had a Phyrexian Dreadnought on the board, but instead it's in the graveyard. Those Goyfs are 6/7s now because the artifact and creature have been added to the mix. Both in the form of a Dreadnought.
Wow. Illusionary Mask.
Yeah,
Probably
it's
one of the more
really
confusing cards I've ever seen.
And I love that AJ is playing it. Brainstorm from Josh. That's his third Brainstorm in the game.
Alright, so this Brainstorm is going to put down 2 cards, and I think he's going to probably try to use a shuffle effect or something. Does he have one? I think he does here, right? He has a lot of action. He has Force, he has another Goyf. Looks to be in pretty good shape.
I don't see a... Oh, is that... No, there's a Wasteland. So, waste your Bayou.
Another Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyfs are interesting in their number factors. I mean, right now they're 6/7s. And
Number 9, follow me.
they're 6/7s, but if you have 2 Tarmogoyfs, neither player can attack. Even if one player has 3. But if you have 2 Tarmogoyfs and your opponent has 1, then you can attack.
Right.
So the toughness is 1 larger than the power, so it creates interesting combat situations.
Alright, We're going to have Jared Silva in the booth really quick for illusionary mask clarifications.
All right, so now in the booth, Judge Jared Silva.
How are you doing?
Answer some illusionary mask questions for us.
Yeah, I'm not sure I made the correct call coming in here on this.
All right, so I have a question. When you cast the spell Illusionary Mask,
yes,
and you pay the X amount, when the spell is in the stack, what is its converted mana cost?
The converted mana cost on the stack would be similar to a morph.
It would be 0.
However, still reading this text here. It'll be a couple of minutes.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Yes. So the key part is that it's face down, and the game does have definitions of what a face down spell looks like and what a face down creature looks like. And so it has no mana cost, meaning that its converted mana cost on the stack is 0. I'm just trying to see if there's any clause about if it's targeted when it is a creature spell, if it turns face up.
Morph while face up.
So a lot of these rulings I don't understand at all. I just like to say that right now. I'm trying to read.
All right.
The things
Which,
like, for
which
example,
ones are confusing? Besides all of them.
Okay. So here, this one for example. You can turn a face down permanent face up if it would have morph while face up. This applies to creatures you cast face down as a result of illusionary mask effects. Okay, so that makes sense. So it's just like you can morph things that you play with illusionary mask.
The key there is that morph is an ability that creatures that are face down don't have any abilities. Morph is a special ability that allows you to turn it face up, provided that when you turn it face up, it has morph.
Okay, so if the guy's face down with this, can I respond to it flipping face up?
If it's done with morph, you can't because it's a special ability. The flipping face up part of this.
Hold on, I think I read something about this earlier. Okay, so Go for the Throat didn't fizzle because while the creature was face down, the creature was technically like a morph. It was a 2/2 with no abilities, a converted mana cost of 0, no creature type, no card type.
Absolutely.
So it didn't even have the subtype of artifact. I misunderstood that. This card is very confusing. I apologize. So here I found it. The effect that turns cards face up with Illusionary Mask is a replacement effect. Therefore, it does not use the stack and cannot be responded to.
Yeah, it's not an activated ability. It's basically in response to anything happening to it.
Yeah.
We have to
it's
then
not even
determine
a
all
trigger.
of its
It's a full-on
determine all of its
replacement.
characteristics. Illusionary Mask. So let's see. This is AJ playing the Illusionary Mask, right? All right. So he's also got the Torpor Orb. All right. Yeah, this is a fun deck.
Yeah, this is pretty sweet.
Hunted Horror is a kind of a beast.
Yeah, he's a 7/7.
Especially when he doesn't give your opponent anything.
Yeah.
Illusionary Mask is kind of the original way to get around all of the comes into play abilities, because since it's coming in face down with no abilities.
Yeah, Illusionary Mask was, a card that people were playing with Phyrexian Dreadnought. I remember way back when.
Yep,
People
absolutely.
were cheating Phyrexian Dreadnought with Illusionary Mask, and I didn't understand what was happening then.
Yeah.
I remember losing and just having no idea what happened. People would be like, what happened? I'd be like, I don't know.
The trick was that the card didn't actually work back then. It was one of those situations where the wording actually was self-contradicting. And so the current wording, as awkward and absolutely seems very, very specific and nitpicky, it actually functions.
Okay.
And so there were times when you would get questions that you could answer in different ways depending on which parts of the card you were looking at. So this is one of the things that happens with Oracle text these days, is that they actually create something that functions. Now, they also then try and get as close to the original functionality as possible. Sometimes that means that we get stuff like Flash, which, moving back to its original function, does terrible things to a format and needs to leave quickly. But they have been trying to, as much as possible, stick to what the card did when it came out.
I like that. I mean, back when I played against Illusionary Mask, I was not playing in a tournament setting. It was more my older brother's friends, just like picking.
They could do whatever they wanted to anyways. So this was just a card that actually kind of legally allowed them to do it. Okay.
All right, so AJ looks to have a Torpor Orb in hand. I don't know what else he has under there. Has his opponent used that Forcible yet? Sorry, I got sidetracked by...
We should get back to the game at hand. Looks like we've got Tarmogoyfs on both sides. That's a Mishra's Factory, and what's there in the middle? Is that another?
That's another factory.
Another factory?
The dual deck. Tezzeret versus Elspeth. Mishra's Factory is on the Tezzeret side.
So we're shifting back over to Josh's turn. The Rishadan Port taps down one of the factories.
So Josh looks like he's got this one locked up. It's pretty bad for AJ. The Tarmogoyfs are big enough where it's lethal, so AJ can't eat factories with his Tarmogoyf. He's going to have to, just get in the way and bump with that Tarmogoyf. And that's going to put him down to 3.
Yep, he's looking for something, but
Josh made a little bit of a mistake there during his upkeep when AJ tapped his factory with his port. He could have activated activated the other factory and used the factory to pump it. That would have put AJ down to 2.
Could have also, the other possibility there is just using that 1 mana to activate the factory would mean that his Underground Sea would be untapped right now. But that standstill is gonna reload Josh.
And he already has a Force in hand too, so I think and a Daze.
Wasteland is helpful though.
Yeah, Wasteland is helpful.
And gets in underneath that standstill. AJ can keep the other factory tapped down, keep bouncing Tarmogoyfs, and see whether or not he can get to a point where he can possibly, if he can get another Wasteland, that can put him kind of back in this game.
So, just a side note, somebody just said, AJ just confused 1,600 people with a card that's 5 years older than he is.
Yep, and in fact, since that's an unlimited Illusionary Mask, that card probably actually is older than he is.
I think it's actually 5 years older.
Physically, it's been on this planet significantly longer than AJ.
Yeah. Like AJ was just like Aether when that Illusionary Mask. It was just carbon.
AJ looking through his graveyard to see if anything there is going to help out. Maybe figuring out how large those Tarmogoyfs are.
Yeah, he might also just be looking at what cards he's played thus far and trying to figure out the odds of him drawing particular cards or what things he could draw in a particular order. He may have been checking if he had used his Go for the Throat yet, which he had. He only has 1 copy of Go for the Throat in his deck, and that would be a pretty nice card to draw right now. So knowing he cannot draw that means he's probably going to.
Now, what are Josh's chances of breaking through here? The Bug Landstill build is pretty controlling. So it looks like another Tarmogoyf plan to break the standstill. AJ's going to pick up 3 cards.
And interestingly enough, Hold on.
Josh is ready to pass over with Daze, Force of Will, Tropical Island, and I didn't see catch the last card. So that would be a ton to fight through right there.
All right,
That's a
so AJ
pretty full
looks to
grip for
have,
AJ, though.
I mean, if he's going to be able to fight through, this is the hand he's going to be able to do it with.
Mental
a dark
misstep
ritual
is
would
the
do
last.
a lot of work.
Mental misstep is going to bite that right in the butt.
That's true. Mental misstep is good against the ritual. There's so there's a possibility that he does not counter the dark ritual.
I suppose you can make the wrong play. You've got to think with with the Daze and the Force of Will as backup, you're just going to want to keep AJ off of getting to any sort of mana where he can play multiple spells. So if he didn't get that Dark Ritual and start with that, Torpor Orb doesn't do a whole lot on its own.
No, it does not.
So it looks like that gets through, or are we still debating?
Oh, wow. He baited a force?
And he took his misstep out.
Now he might just win.
That's an interesting choice there.
Yeah, and I mean, now all AJ has to do is resolve a single threat, so he can just play
if he has
the Dreadnought.
Yeah, if he has Dreadnought.
He does.
The problem is he can't tap down the factory this turn.
But it's okay because his opponent forgot to pump the factory the other time, so he's at 3, so he'll only go to 1.
Now that Daze... Are we tapped out here?
No. He paid 1 for the Illusionary Mask, I believe.
And what was the other 1 for? Because AJ's got all of his mana tapped.
That dice is 1 mana floating.
Oh, 1 mana
So
floating.
I think
Okay. So he tapped both of his with 1 mana floating. So that die should be clearing.
Maybe the old Gerard trick of, I had Gerard once tap all of his lands against me very quickly and then cast an upheaval, and I asked if he was tapped out, and he said yes, and I countered it, and then he countered my counter, and I was like, but you were tapped out, and he's like, well, I tapped all my lands, but I have 10 lands here that I put in a pile. This was long ago.
There's actually, it's been clarified in the rules that if you are passing priority with mana in your pool, you actually have to state it now.
No, I mean, this was old school.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. There's reasons for that rule. Gerard may be one of them. So that's interesting because that seemed like a very...
Yeah, I didn't think AJ could possibly have won, and then...
No? If he had just held back, he would have actually had misstep for... If AJ had 2 Dreadnoughts, which was pretty much the only thing that he could have had with that Torpor Orb, in order to have more action than he could fight through with the Force of Will, he could have misstepped the first one and still had the Force up for the second one if he had it. So we activate here and we send in, and we're going to get to see what AJ's got face down here. Looks like AJ is going to be going to 1. Yep, there's a Dreadnought. Dreadnought going to take out that Tarmogoyf, and we're going to be in a pretty good...
He paid 2 for this.
So AJ actually paid 2 for that mask activation.
His opponent didn't Daze?
And
oh, he was playing around Mental Misstep. Huh.
The mask activation actually does cast, so he actually walked right into Daze, but Josh did not make him pay for it.
Yeah, Josh must not have a full understanding of Illusionary Mask.
it does mask whether or not it's Hunted Horror or Dreadnought by paying 2. That's one of the
true.
things that you are able to do, but in that situation, I'm not sure that trying to trick your opponent on that side is worth putting yourself
Yeah, I guess because it doesn't even dodge
against
mental
days.
misstep, then because when you're paying 2 for it, its convertible casting cost is still 0.
It's still 0.
Zero
Yep, it's
now,
still
all
not
the
getting
time,
mental
so.
misstep. Him to Torak is going to put Josh into a pretty tough position, especially if he manages to hit the days. Got 2 lands and days in there. Knocking out. And we are going to get rid of the days, so that's just a polluted delta in Josh's hand. And AJ's actually back and in control of this game.
Did he just forget to play it face down?
Plays it with the illusionary mask ability, clearly. I guess.
A little close.
Yeah. Almost ran into bad places there.
And 12U. Josh is trapped down to
Phyrexian
5.
Dreadnought, still really big.
Yeah. He's gigantic. And when you go for the throats, it's pretty hard to deal with him.
Yep. And AJ just played the horror face down. We confirmed with our judge on the scene.
And he did tap the port in order to cast it, so it would be impossible for him to have cast it.
Yeah, with the 2
not
black.
face
So
down.
this is an interesting play from Josh. I'm not sure what he's trying to get to. I guess he realizes with 2 fetch lands in hand. Yep. And wow, that was a pretty big turnaround. When I sat down,
I did not
AJ
expect
definitely
that to
looked like
happen.
he was with his back up against the wall. Josh had him locked under a standstill, had him outnumbered on creatures, and then tried to go for the knockout punch by dropping a Tarmogoyf. That refilled AJ's hand and gave him the opening that he needed. But the important exchange in that game was definitely around the Torpor Orb, where Josh decided that was important enough to counter. He was willing to use his Force of Will, removing his mental misstep,
which was huge. The 2 most important cards in his hand got removed for something that was utterly useless. And the thing is that when you're playing against a deck like this, you don't know what's important and what's not important. And I'm sure that Josh doesn't really know what's going on. Like, he may have saw the Torpor Orb and the Illusionary Mask and thought that there was some sort of combo that he just wasn't catching on to, and that maybe he was just going to lose.
You've got to think this is not a deck that he has a lot of testing in against.
Yeah.
But against this deck, the Torpor Orb is simply a facilitator.
Yes.
It doesn't do anything on its own. And so one of the things that you want to watch out for, especially against a deck that you don't really know well, the first thing you want to do is identify what are your threats. What are you going to lose to?
You cannot stifle the Illusionary Mask ability.
You can. Yep.
You cannot. You cannot stifle the Illusionary Mask ability.
Nope. You can. So there's a question here, and Jacob is losing lunch again, about whether or not you can stifle the ability from Illusionary Mask. And the key is it's an activated ability that's going to go onto the stack, use the stack, and then resolve. And in that resolution, that's when you're going to cast the card face down.
Okay, so you can pay the 2 mana and they can stifle the Illusionary Mask
They
ability.
would stifle.
But you would still have the cards in your hand.
Yes, they would stifle the ability before the card left your hand.
Okay, when
Yep.
the card's getting flipped up, you cannot stifle that.
Yep.
There's
Now,
no way to
the way
stifle
that
that, right?
the way that the ability is often played is shortcutted to do this and put it on. But the way that it actually works, if you break it down, is you activate the ability saying activate for 2. At that point, that goes on. When that resolves is when the creature is put face down and placed onto the stack as a spell.
So if it's stifled, the card is still in their hand.
Yep.
And once it's on the battlefield, when it's going to be turned face up, it cannot be stifled.
No,
correct?
absolutely not.
Okay, so
once it's
that's
on the
what I was
battlefield, all
thinking.
you're
Okay.
doing is revealing, here's what this creature is, and here's how badly it's going to kick your
So
butt.
stifle is not very good against it.
It's only going to slow it down.
Yeah, it's
Not gonna
stifle is
actually
your
stop.
opponent has to pay 1 mana. It's like a remand where you don't draw a card.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, with Hunted Horror and with the land that AJ had, he was short on land in that game. Stifle may actually have slowed him up just enough, but definitely not